What is up, YouTube? I'm your host, ProfessorStix, back at it again with another Call of Duty Warzone video. Today, we are going to be comparing the CX-9 and the MAC-10. We'll be looking at the stats, we'll be diving deep into the damage profile, and I'll be sharing with you guys the best attachments. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I make Warzone tips and tricks videos, and I compare the best weapons in Warzone. Let's get right into it. When we're looking at the weapon stats, the CX-9 has an ADS speed of 175 milliseconds and a movement speed of 4.98 meters per second. The MAC-10 has an ADS speed of 167 milliseconds and a movement speed of 5.08 meters per second. The CX-9 has a reload speed of 1.98 seconds and a rate of fire of 1,036 rounds per minute. The MAC-10 has a reload speed of 2 seconds and a rate of fire of 1,108 rounds per minute. Let's dive into the damage profile. The CX-9 does 34 damage to the head, which means it's going to take 8 shots to down a fully armored opponent, compared to the MAC-10, which does 27 damage to the head, which means it's going to take 10 shots to down a fully armored opponent. The CX-9 does 24 damage to the chest, which means it's going to take 11 shots to down a fully armored opponent. And the MAC-10 does 23 damage to the chest, which means it's going to take 11 shots to down a fully armored opponent. Now keep in mind that the effective damage range for the CX-9 is at 13 meters and for the MAC-10 is at 15.5 meters. And so within this range, if you're using the CX-9, you're going to down a fully armored opponent if you're hitting all of your headshots in 405 milliseconds, compared to the MAC-10, which is going to do that in 479 milliseconds. Now we know that's pretty much impossible. The most optimal thing that we will most likely do is hit all of our chest shots. And so if you're using the CX-9, you're going to down a fully armored opponent in 579 milliseconds, compared to the MAC-10. If you're hitting all of your chest shots, it's going to down a fully armored opponent in 587 milliseconds. So not much of a big difference there. Now where the CX-9 comes out on top is if you hit one headshot, you are going to down a fully armored opponent in 521 milliseconds. Compared to the MAC-10, if you hit one headshot and the rest of them are chest shots, you are still going to down a fully armored opponent in 587 milliseconds. So right here, the CX-9 does have a slight advantage. Now, when you're using the CX-9, the second damage fall off, it does 30 damage to the head, which means it's going to take 9 shots to down a fully armored opponent. And the MAC-10 does 22 damage to the head, which means it's going to take 12 shots to down a fully armored opponent. At range, the CX-9 does 21 damage to the chest, which means it's going to take 12 shots to down a fully armored opponent. And the MAC-10 does 19 damage to the chest, which means it's going to take 14 shots to down a fully armored opponent. Now keep in mind that that damage fall off for the CX-9 is between 13 and 22 meters, and for the MAC-10 it is 15.5 meters. Now you can extend both of these with attachments. Also, the CX-9 does have an additional third damage fall off. Now, jumping into the time to kill. If you hit all of your chest shots at range with the CX-9, you're going to down a fully armored opponent in 637 milliseconds. If you hit an additional headshot, it doesn't matter. It's still going to be 637 milliseconds. With the MAC-10, if you hit all of your chest shots at range, it's going to down a fully armored opponent in 748 milliseconds. But if you do mix in one headshot, you can reduce your time to kill to 694 milliseconds. So even here at range, the CX-9 does have a slight advantage, but keep in mind that after 22 meters, it does have another damage fall off, and that makes the MAC-10 slightly better outside of that range, but primarily you want to be using an AR for those mid-range gunfights. All right, guys, let's jump into the attachments. All right, so for the CX-9, this is a bit of a different build than how you would build most of your SMGs. You're going to want to go with the monolithic suppressor. This is going to keep you off of the enemy minimap, and it's also going to give you that damage range. But keep in mind that it does hurt your ADS speed. We're going with no barrel. However, if you feel like you absolutely need a barrel, you want the max bullet velocity, you want the max recoil control, damage range, and sound suppression, go with the CX-38S. That is the integral suppressor, but keep in mind that it does hurt your movement speed. And with the current meta, with having the MAC-10, having the Cold War MP5, the XM4, and a lot of very fast moving weapons, you're just going to lose when it comes to those strafe battles and things like that. So you're going to want to make sure that your accuracy is on point if you're going to be hurting your movement speed. All right, so that's why I'm not building mine with a barrel. We're going to go with the Merc foregrip. So it's going to give us that recoil control and that hip firing accuracy, but again, it's going to hurt our movement speed when we're aim walking. And so What we're going to do to counteract that is we're going to put on the CXFR, which is like the no stock attachment. It's going to increase our movement speed and also increase our aim down sight speed. Then we're going to go with the 5 milliwatt laser, which is going to give us our hip firing and our sprint to fire. And then finally, we're going to go with the 50 round drum. All right, so here are my final thoughts. The CX-9 with its buff, it's definitely a viable weapon. However, when you do start adding on some of the Modern Warfare attachments, it does slow down the weapon significantly. And so you're going to find that the Black Ops Cold War weapons just have a lot more movement speed. However, if you are able to hit those shots, the CX-9 is definitely a good option because it's going to rip apart enemy armor pretty quickly. And if you manage to hit one headshot within those 11 shots to down, you are definitely going to win a lot of your gunfights because the time to kill is at 521 milliseconds, which is top tier when it comes to SMGs. All right, guys, that's it for me. As always, make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you can find your way back for more Call of Duty content. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.